The news that a lot of people have been campaigning for a long time in this country, and it's happening. Today, the government is announcing plans to crack down on drink spiking. They're going to modernise the law that makes it clear that putting alcohol or drugs into another person's drink or injecting them without their consent is a crime.
Well, bouncers will also receive training to spot potential perpetrators, and new research will help develop real-time testing kits for police and venues to use. Well, joining us now is former Love Island star and campaigner Sharon Gaffka, who had her drink spiked in 2020, and Dawn Dines as well, the CEO and founder of Stamp Out Spiking. Good morning to both of you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. And Sharon, I'm sorry, it's the situation that has happened to you, but that's obviously why you're here campaigning to get this change, to get more notice, really, isn't it, for this? Because with the situation at the moment, it's hard for people to prove what's happened. It's hard to know exactly what's gone on, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that actually with a lot of crimes that of a similar nature, it's always very hard to prove. And it also means that societal attitudes and sometimes policing attitudes means that victims and survivors are very unlikely to come forward because they're too scared to not be believed by their own peers.
And what happened for you then? How did you know that you'd been spiked?
I think it's... For anyone that's ever experienced spiking, especially with a drug like I'd been spiked with, it was very obvious. You know, I've been 18 once upon a time and had one too many drinks that I shouldn't have had, and I can tell there's quite a strong difference between what happened to me that night when I was spiked and having one too many drinks.
So what happened? What time of night was that?
It wasn't a time of night, it was a broad daylight lunchtime setting. Broad daylight lunchtime setting. And I was having just a social lunch with my friends, a couple of glasses of wine, nothing was abnormal apart from the last drink that I had.
Your reaction.
And how soon after the last drink and the symptoms of being spiked, what was that?
My memory of what had happened is actually very sketchy, but from what my friends had told me, it literally happened within like 30 minutes.
Do you know who did it?
We have we can't pinpoint it to the person, we can pinpoint it down to a group of people.
Why would they have done it?
For me, my understanding is for the purposes of sexual offences. You know, with all the campaigning I've done and the thousands of people I've spoken to over the years, it's been for a variety of different reasons.
But that's the primary motive, to incapacitate you?
Yeah, that is the primary motive, to incapacitate a person. Usually for women that I've spoken to, it's been for sexual offences. Sometimes with men that I've spoken to, it's been for the purposes of robbery or theft, or sometimes even a joke amongst friends.
And how hard is it, that situation, then, when people are sort of... I mean, actually, when it's happened to them, they're not able to say very much, I imagine, but actually getting that recognition, this is what's happened, I need help because of it, and actually being able to prove what has happened?
I think that one of the things that's really important with the new measures that have been announced today is that actually, you know, you need staff to be able to advocate for people that are in a vulnerable situation. I couldn't talk at all. I was completely unconscious. And had my friends also been spiked in a difficult situation, nobody would have been able to advocate for us.
Right.
And venues would just assume, that someone's had a bit too much to drink, wouldn't they?
Yeah, naturally, they would. And it's because of the lack of training, but also, you know, with the lack of test kits available, had there been a test kit made available to me or to my friends, we knew which glass it was, which drink it was. It could have taken that drink and had it swabbed. What
about CCTV? Because that was my first thought when I read about this. I mean, most bars have CCTV in operation now, which are covering most angles. You would have thought that it would be possible to wind the tape back and see somebody fiddling around with your glass of wine.
I think it's not always obvious, I think, and also there's been a lot of cases where people have tried to go through the criminal prosecution route and tried to use CCTV as a form of evidence, and it's either not been very clear or sometimes venues are too scared to provide CCTV, and you know, it's not always as obvious as, like, someone literally tampering.
No, they do it subtly, obviously. Yeah. But you would have thought, you know, a careful... And Dawn, you tell me, you would have thought... You're nodding when I asked that question. A careful analysis of CCTV should surely at least give us a pointer as to who's done it.
It really should, and that's why the training is going to be essential, because we're going to be able to train up security staff, bar staff, all the people who work in the day and the nighttime economy. It's essential that they know the typical signs and symptoms of spiking, how somebody acts, so that we can intervene, because they are the difference between somebody getting home safely or somebody potentially getting gang raped.
How do they act?
It's that serious.
How do they act? Paint us a picture of how somebody who spikes someone's drink behaves. What are the telltale signs?
Your eyes will go really blurry. You're going to start acting like really drunk really quickly.
No, what I mean is, how does the person person who spikes the drink act? How do they start?
Oh, how does that... Well, they're just going to be secretive, aren't they? They're going to... By distraction, a lot of spiking happens by distraction. So they'll be going, oh, Sharon, can we have a photo? And then... They pop something into a drink.
So you've got some devices there, haven't you? So these are the kind of things that... Just talk us through what's on those drinks there for people... If they're in a bar, if they're in a situation where they're worried about it.
Yeah, these are stop tops. They're like a protective drink cover. You just slip it over a glass. If anybody tampers with it, it will rip or crease and you'll know that somebody's touched your drink. I mean, you should never leave your drink unattended anyway.
No.
But it would just stop an opportunist from easily being able to slip something into your drink.
Okay.
It's also really handy at a festival because you don't spill your drinks.
No, so, that's a good point. I mean, Dawn, you've been campaigning for more action over drink spiking for years, haven't you? And I was looking at the figures for this, and it is staggering because we know that, you know, in the past year, so September 2021 to 2022, 5,000 were reported in a year, and that's just the ones that are reported.
Yes.
And yet, when we look at the prosecutions, November 2017 to 2021, you know, the number is so small, isn't it? I think it was like 40 or something. Yeah. Which is a crazy number, isn't it?
It is.
And actually, you know, as Sharon was making the point, it would be hard if you didn't have your friends around you to necessarily piece together what had happened. So actually, we don't really know the scale of this, do we? But what we do know is it happens to a lot of people and not many people get prosecuted for it.
It really does. And this crime can happen to men and boys just as easy as to women and girls. I would love to say that because everyone assumes that it's only happening to young women, but that's not true.
What's the pink and the blue thing you've got there?
These are little ones that go into the top of a bottle. So that will make it more difficult for anybody to slip anything into a bottle.
So, as of today, I mean, this already is a criminal offence, but the government are making it absolutely clear that it is a criminal offence. What do you think somebody who spikes someone's drink should get in terms of a punishment?
Well, do you know, if we're looking at what can happen to you, so if somebody goes out and spikes somebody's drink, there is no good intention. And when Sharon was saying earlier that it could be for a prank, I don't know anybody that's going to make someone wet themselves, be violently sick, go in and out of consciousness, would do that as a prank. So that to me is no excuse.
So automatic jail time?
10 years.
10 years inside?
10 years.
10 years inside, which actually we all know means 5.
Yes.
Well, what do you think?
I'd probably share the same sentiment with what Dawn was saying, and also we have to think about the reasons as to why these were the spiking was actually taking place in the first place. If it's for sexual offences, you know, we need to take that into consideration, and also how much this person could cause other damage to society by being out there.
What more would you like to see? I mean, I know there's work on things like testing kits at the moment, but we're not quite there with kits that will test for every single drug. But what else do you think needs to be done to tackle this better?
Yeah, I think so. For me, whenever I've gone into Parliament and spoken to MPs about this, and when I was starting my campaign, the first part was the legislation. But then for me, it's also about education, tackling how societal views spiking and victims of spiking, as well as policing attitudes as well. That's why having a clear-cut piece of legislation is super important. But for me, it's also now education.
Yeah.
We're talking about educating members of staff to be able to spot a victim or a potential victim of spiking, but also I think that putting more onus onto...
And it's a difficult point, this, but it's true to say, isn't it, that we have to accept that there are going to be some members of staff who actually spike drink.
Yes,
you know?
we've found that a few times. And maybe saying that there's going to be a larger sentence.
Yeah.
If somebody abuses their position of trust.
Dawn, what would your message be? Because obviously, you know, Christmas time, lots of people are going out for Christmas drinks, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, if they're worried about what might happen, what's your key bit of advice for people when they're out and about in a bar to make sure this doesn't happen to them?
OK, so we're in the run-up to Christmas. Please remember that putting extra alcohol into somebody's drink is still a form of spiking. Alcohol is still a drug, and lots of people always go, oh, stick a double in, and they don't tell anyone. They might have to operate machinery, they might be on medication, and if you're going to go out and, if for the perpetrators, now the law is going to be updated, there is zero tolerance.
Where do you get those tops from that you put on the drinks?
You can order them online.
OK, what's the website?
Stoptops.com.
Stoptop.com.
Yeah.
You can get a session for your party season.
Yes.
All right, congratulations on your campaign.
We're
getting there, aren't we?
Coming into
Surely, but I agree with you. I think 10 years, because of course these people who do it, it's not a one-off. This is habitual behaviour.
It is.
I mean, the person who spiked your drink, I'm sure, had done it before and has done it since.
Yeah.
Thank
They
you.
need putting away.
Let's hope this makes a difference. Thank you.